The General is here. We got a cold steel Napoleonic Saber. This has been heavily modified. This originally was a 3-bar hilt, and I removed a bar to make it a 2-bar hilt. This washer, cold steel gives you washers like this to seal your scabbard. But if you notice, this is actually underneath the blade. You have to disassemble this. I put that in there. It keeps your hilt tighter. That is historically accurate. That there would be leather washers in between your blade and your hilt. This sword is a two nut construction. You have this spanner nut here, which holds on the back strap. Once this is removed, the remainder thread of the tang has a nut on it, which is holding with a washer this wooden grip. The 2 bars come around, and there is a hook on the end of this bar that seats on the inside of this, right? So it goes in there and hooks like that. Anyway, that's the construction of how this sword is. The blade, though it came fairly sharp, it had basically a tertiary edge. You know, sometimes there is a bevel and then another bevel, but this one almost had 3 bevels. It's the fuller also. I do all my sharpening by hand. I don't do a belt sander in there or anything, you know, which you can feel it much better if you're doing it by hand, to be honest with you, you know. When that file, and I always start with a file, but you know when you're cutting right. I've also put a back edge on this that is fairly wicked. But yeah, the one reason that I took one of these bars off, if you can see, at the point of balance, most swords, I have another one I'll show you, a saber, if you find the point of balance, it will still usually balance flat like this. This is one of the few swords I have that once you find the point of balance, it actually rolls over. It's hard to find it. Hold on. See, it has this a wobble. See that? Now all the other swords I own that are sabers, especially with the asymmetrical hilt, all the rest of them, when you find the point of balance, they still stay like this. This one has always rolled. Now, when it had the other bar on it, it rolled very violently, and so that's why I took that bar off. There was too much weight off the center line, you know. I do prefer a symmetrical hilt for that purpose, but there was also, if you look this up, you can see, I mean, I'm not done polishing it, but I have cut a bunch of shit off this. This had some sort of extension of the languettes here, extended down onto the grip, which was awful. So those were fucking cut off, both sides. I cut this 3rd bar off. This 3rd bar came off of here, way around, and hooked in right here. So there was a huge, and it was the largest bar too. That's the other interesting thing. You'd think the largest diameter weighted bar would be more in the center, and maybe you would go slightly lighter out. These got heavier. So it's a very strange feeling sword, I have to admit. I have a cold steel 1860 cavalry saber, which is much heavier, much bigger, and it feels lighter and nimbler, and it's much more fun to use. So it's a strange I don't know if it has something to do with this quillon, as Matt Easton would say, quillon. But there's something, I don't know, even if you notice when most people in the sword community, when you see them with a point of balance, with a saber, 2 or 3 bar, it settles down. You know, it settles. Whether it settles this way or this way, but it settles. I've noticed that. This one, you can't, it has the constant, it's very strange. There's something wrong with this sword. I don't know what yet. But I have stopped it from ever getting loose with this washer. I have fixed a bit of the asymmetrical inertia that, which will aid in edge alignment. I put a fairly wicked, I'm not quite done yet, because like I said, this was like a 3-angled edge, tertiary angles. But I am bringing it, I'm doing a complete, you're not going to be able to see it, but I'm doing a complete single bevel from the fuller, right? And it's going to be, it's going to be steep. It's going to be steep. You definitely are going to have to do a little push and pull, because it'll be a little steeper than 22. But in that, I'm gonna be removing a lot of material. It probably will only equate to maybe a few ounces, but it'll make a huge difference. This ridge created between the edge bevel, the edge angled bevel, and the fuller, I'm gonna remove some of that spine right here, because you can feel your edge hit that. And as you can see up here, where there is no fuller to maintain the angle that is pretty much put in because of the fuller. I wouldn't have chosen this angle. I wouldn't have necessarily done this angle, but this fuller and the way the ridge comes up and the way that it was already ground at the factory, I mean, unless you're going to remove so much material that it's a different blade. But you can see the transition of how your file, even at the same strop angle, see where the fuller ends, bloop, and you can see how now the angle of the blade has not really changed, but it hasn't changed because I did it by hand, I mean, it's just as good as a machine, to be honest with you, and you can do it slower and work your way up on it. You can fuck something up on a grinder or a goddamn belt sander right now. You can see it rolled over edge right there. See it? Bang. Anyway, this has been the General showing you this sword. I hope y'all are having fun. And we'll see you on down the trail, motherfuckers.